I'm Megan McKenna. I'm a speech-language pathologist working with primarily students who have autism spectrum disorders, all the way from birth up to 5th grade, but specializing in preschool age. I was exposed to the Right Connections method working in a preschool setting with the founder, Angela Sarno. I worked on a team with her, with a group of students in an intensive program that was focused on preschoolers who had significant disabilities, primarily autism, who were nonverbal, the majority of who were nonverbal, or who had severe communication impairments, and also had significant motor, sensory, fine motor, or motor planning types of issues, and needed a very specific type of environment to learn with a lot of structure and with a lot of support from adults and specific materials and strategies. I've had some exposure to programs that work primarily on learning how to print letters one by one. The big difference that I've seen with the Right Connections is it focuses on writing as a means to communicate. And when you build communication into writing, it becomes much more meaningful for a student. It goes beyond arbitrary markings to create letters, and it moves towards creating a word to request for things or to express yourself. And so when I saw how Angela built that into the program and how students became interested in writing because it helped them to communicate things that they wanted, it was much more successful than any other method that I had seen. I think that a lot of people forget that there is a link between writing and communication. And while when you're working with a preschool population, you're primarily working on, as a speech-language pathologist, talking and understanding. But there's also a critical piece that at some point children have to know how to use written expression as a means to communicate their ideas, and that links a lot to literacy as well. So that is really where the connection comes into play. And I think that if students are exposed to writing as a way to communicate early on, instead of learning how to write letters really for, in their view, probably no purpose, that a lot more progress can be made overall because it's bridging a lot of those areas of disability. When I was working in the preschool program with Angela, we were working with a student who had very little functional verbal language. He did have some language, but a lot of times it was hard to understand what he was trying to say. And with working with Angela on the certain writing strokes, and then building into working on choosing a reinforcer that he liked. So it was either a car or a ball. And then they would practice writing that word, and then he would immediately be reinforced by receiving that object. That was very rewarding for him, and I was in the room one of the times when he did it, and he received what he wanted, and there was that light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, I can do this, and it can get me something that I want. I don't have to say it. I don't have to get my communication system to help me say it. This is a whole nother route that I can use. And I think that if we create those opportunities for students who have a lot of things that are hard for them to do, if we can give them different options of how to make things happen, they're a lot more likely to be successful. I would say that when you are looking to have your child learn how to write, you need to frame it in a way that it's rewarding for them and that there's some amount of fun to it. And that is Angela's motto in therapy, is also that things must be fun if we're going to get anywhere. So when you're looking into a program, when you see the Right Connections, you have to understand that it incorporates both things that are rewarding, that are focusing on building in language aspects to it too, and then also that it's fun for students. So the strokes that the students are learning and that children are learning, they have fun names, and it can become more of like a repetitive game. I've seen students who want to go up to the dry erase board and do it on their own, when they're not in occupational therapy. And then that also carries over into classroom work too, or things at home where you can do that with different materials at home. The other thing is, if you're looking at a writing program, it has to be rewarding to a student, it has to be at a level that they can understand. And the Right Connections is a program that incorporates a language focus, focusing on writing being a part of communication, and how can we show students and children that if you write a word, that means that you're telling someone something, and that carries a lot of power, because when you're able to communicate your ideas in any way, you're going to find success, and you're going to be more likely to continue wanting to work with other people and to communicate. I would say at the end of the day, the most important thing when a child is learning to write, or anyone is learning to write, is that they can get their information across in a way that's efficient, so at a certain speed, in a way that other people can read it, because that is how you're going to use writing to communicate. A lot of other methods are focused on writing a letter, and it becomes this very difficult task of making all these markings that make letters, and then the letters building into a word, and then putting a space and starting a new letter that starts a new word. And that just becomes a very overwhelming task. I've seen a lot of students with a variety of disabilities who have a breakdown over that much work to get across a quick idea. And the focus of the Right Connections is getting across an idea quickly and efficiently and in a way where other people can read it. It's not about the perfect line or the perfect A, B, and C. It's about how can we combine strokes that are part of a natural movement to create a word that gets us to communicate. At the end of the day, even though Common Core may say that print is what we need to do up until second grade, there's no significant research that says that's easier for kids. There's no research that says that that is a way that makes us more successful in the future when we're writing. As long as we can write and get a message across at any age, that's what's important, and that's what the program focuses on. When I have watched students and other therapists working on handwriting, the focus has always been just on their name or just on the ABCs, and that's all. Writing the letters of their name or writing the ABCs. This is the first program I've ever seen that looks at writing as a means to communicate. And that makes it understandable for children, that makes it rewarding for children, and it makes it seem like less of a difficult task. There is a reason why we're doing it, and it becomes clear to the student right away because they're reinforced with something that they like. So that would be my biggest thing, is it is the first program I've seen that really bridges all of the language concerns that we see with students with autism and other disabilities, that can work on the two simultaneously, and that can support students in their quest to develop skills so that they can interact more appropriately with other people and more successfully communicate what they need to say.